The cold winter wind howled through the streets of New York City, rattling the windows of towering office buildings and sending dry leaves skittering along the pavement. On a worn-out wooden bench in Liberty Square, just across from the mayor's office, Olivia Carter sat in silence, hands buried deep in the pockets of her thin jacket. She curled into herself, not just from the cold, but from the emptiness gnawing at her soul. 1 year ago, she was Captain Olivia Carter, a decorated Marine Corps officer leading tactical operations in the Middle East. She had commanded troops in high-stakes missions, made split-second decisions that determined who lived and who didn't, and had the unwavering respect of every soldier under her command. But now she was invisible. She had sent out over 100 job applications, only to receive rejection after rejection. We're looking for candidates with industry experience. Your resume is impressive, but we're concerned that military culture may not align with our corporate environment. The same responses over and over, like a silent verdict passed down to her and thousands of veterans just like her. She had once been responsible for millions of dollars in military equipment, for the lives of countless soldiers. Now she couldn't even convince a hiring manager to take a chance on her. Her savings were dwindling. Bills piled higher every week. 3 days ago, her landlord taped an eviction notice to her door. Olivia Carter, a woman who had led elite units into battle, was now struggling to make the most basic survival decision: buy food or pay rent. That night, in the dim glow of her nearly empty apartment, she turned on the television. A live press conference with President Donald Trump filled the screen. He spoke about the economy, job growth, and the future of America. But none of it mattered to her. She was a forgotten soldier in a country that had moved on without her. A thought flashed through her mind, a wild, reckless thought. She was going to go there. She was going to find the president, and she was going to ask him one question. "Mr. President, can you give me a chance?" Her heart pounded at the idea. Security would be tight. She could be thrown out, maybe even arrested. But she had nothing left to lose. As the clock struck midnight, Olivia stood up, her jaw set with determination. Tomorrow she would walk into the biggest battle of her life. A battle with no bullets, no visible enemies, but more obstacles than she had ever faced before. She grabbed her worn-out coat, slung her bag over her shoulder, and stepped out of her apartment for the last time. Her fight wasn't over. It was just beginning. The morning air was crisp as Olivia walked through the streets of Washington, D.C., blending into the crowd that was gathering near the conference hall. The press conference was being held at a prestigious downtown hotel, and every major news outlet was present. Security officers stood at every entrance, scanning every face, ensuring only authorized personnel were allowed in. Olivia had no press pass, no invitation, but she had determination. A group of reporters from a local news outlet arrived, flashing their credentials as they moved toward the press entrance. Olivia took a deep breath and walked toward them, adjusting her posture, exuding quiet confidence. "Excuse me, are you with the Washington Journal?" she asked, feigning professionalism. A man turned toward her, caught off guard. "No, we're from the New York Tribune." "Perfect," she said, glancing at a list she wasn't actually holding. "Your team is being redirected to the secondary press entrance. Move quickly or you'll lose a prime spot." As the reporters turned to leave, Olivia seized the moment. She slipped into the moving crowd, keeping her pace measured. Stay calm, stay unnoticed. But before she could exhale in relief, a deep voice called out from behind her. "Where's your press pass?" Olivia froze. A tall security officer stood a few feet away, his sharp eyes locked onto her. She turned to face him, standing tall, her military training kicking in. "I don't have a press pass." The officer crossed his arms. "Then what are you doing here?" She met his gaze without flinching. "I'm a veteran. I need to speak to the president." His eyes narrowed. "That's a nice story. But do you really think the president has time for just anyone who shows up uninvited?" "Did you serve?" she asked, reading the sharp discipline in his stance. The officer hesitated, then gave a single nod. 8 years in the Army." Olivia inhaled deeply. "Then you understand. I risked everything for this country, and now when I need a chance to survive, no one will give me one. I'm not asking for favors. I just need a job. And I will not leave until I say those words to the president." A heavy silence hung between them. Then the officer sighed and took a step back. Last row, don't cause trouble. Relief flooded through Olivia. Thank you. She stepped inside the press room, her heart still pounding. She had made it. But the battle was far from over. The press conference was packed. Reporters clutched notepads, cameras clicked incessantly, and television crews adjusted their microphones. At the podium, the White House seal gleamed under the lights, waiting for the most powerful man in the country to arrive. Then the room fell silent as Donald Trump stepped in. His presence commanded attention as he strode to the podium, scanning the room before speaking. Thank you all for being here today. We have a lot to discuss, from the economy to foreign policy, and of course, the future of our nation. The press conference stretched on for over 30 minutes, filled with routine questions about policy and governance. Olivia knew her moment was slipping away. If she didn't act now, she would remain invisible forever. A male reporter stood up to ask the final question. Trump responded briefly, then glanced at his aides, ready to step away from the podium. This was it. Before she even realized what she was doing, Olivia stood up. Mr. President, the room fell dead silent. Every head snapped in her direction. Cameras whirled to focus on her. Trump's brow lifted slightly. No one interrupted a press conference like this. Security shifted, prepared to intervene. My name is Olivia Carter, she said, her voice strong. I served in the United States Marine Corps, and I need a job. A stunned hush fell over the crowd. Trump studied her, arms crossing over his chest. What did you just say? She stood her ground. I served my country, but when I came home, no one would hire me. Veterans like me are turned away, told we don't fit into the corporate world. We gave our youth, our strength, our lives for this country, and when we return, we are abandoned. A murmur rippled through the room. Reporters whispered, cameras zoomed in. This wasn't just a question, this was a challenge. Trump's gaze sharpened. What do you want? I want a chance, not a favor. Just an opportunity to prove that veterans are not burdens. We are this country's greatest asset. Trump tapped his fingers on the podium, silent for a moment. Then he turned to his advisors. Do we have an opening at the Department of Veterans Affairs? An aide hesitated. We could look into it, sir. Trump cut him off. She's a veteran. That's the only resume I need. The room erupted in chaos. Olivia's breath caught in her throat. This was it. The moment that would change everything.